Hello.
Hello. Are people listening?
Yeah.
Oh, okay. So hi, welcome to the Beauty is Pain, JFashion in the mental health sphere panel. So first of all, I'll just introduce myself. I'm Jehlei. You can find me on Instagram at Jehlei. A bit about myself. So why this panel? So I've actually studied a lot about mental health and psychology. So I have a big background in academics in all of this. So it's always interested me. And I've been in J fashion for quite a while now. I used to be into Lamke, but now I'm into Lolita, and I've been wearing Lolita for like 4 years now. Oh, and my pronouns are she and her.
I'm Lulu. Uh, I make art mostly having to do with like mental health stuff and like female suffering or the feminine suffering. My pronouns are she and her, and my background is that I have been dealing with like mental health issues my whole life, so now I just make art about it.
I feel that for sure. My name is Puvi. I am a designer primarily focused on menhera, which is a street fashion that is all about mental health and chronic health. I've also been in Lolita and other fashions, and I've always used these fashions as a way to cope with my own mental health and chronic health struggles. Oh, I dropped my mic. Yeah, that would explain why. It's like way over there. Whoops. There we go. Much better, hopefully. All right,
Yes.
I'll start over. My name is Puvi. I run the menhera brand Puvithel, and menhera is a street fashion that focuses mainly with mental health and chronic health issues. I've personally been in the Lolita community for almost a decade, as well as played with other fashions, and I've always used these fashions as a way to deal with my mental health and chronic health issues too. So, and my pronouns are she, her.
All right. Nice to meet everyone. Um, so why did we come together? So we all care about mental health and we all bring a really unique aspect to it. So I suppose that's why we're all here. And it's really cool that we were able to, coordinate this between like Australia and USA, I think. Yes, USA, yes.
Yes.
So yeah, so let's start off with so the purpose of the panel. So you might know how to feel in Lolita, like you might say, oh, this dress feels really nice, or in other J fashions you might say, oh, this feels really right, but why does it feel right? So we're gonna look at why does it feel right and look about the reasons behind that. So maybe you'll come away with a better understanding of yourself and maybe the um, intersect between mental health and J fashion. I know it's not like that for everyone, but for some people. So we're going to start off with a little bit about the history, just a quick overview. So why do we choose J fashion subcultures and not normal clothes? So I think Puvi is going to cover this.
we can we can we can switch back
Oh,
and forth.
yeah, sure.
So why alternative fashion? Why J fashion and not just quote unquote normal clothes? Well, there are several reasons for that. A lot of it is we want our outer clothes to kind of reflect inside, and for a lot of people, just your standard whatever is popular in the moment doesn't do that for you, and you want to be able to show that inside. It also has to do with how kind of many popular fashion trends are revolved around fitting into society to work with society, to interact with other people. And alternative fashion is a little bit more about interacting with yourself and interacting with like what you're feeling. And it's fun to see that all of these fashions, Lolita is more commonly known, have a root in wanting to dress for yourself and for female gaze versus male gaze, and instead of for trying to accomplish the purpose of working in society or maneuvering through society. Did you guys have anything you wanted to add to that?
I know for me personally, my whole like imperative into like wearing Lolita fashion was that I always felt, because of my size, I've always been kind of like a bit of a thicker person. I always felt like I was somehow less feminine than other women. And so initially that was kind of my draw into it, because it's this very excessively feminine style, and you get to take up space and you get to like kind of exaggerate yourself a bit. But as I get older, I think it's more that it feels almost otherworldly. And given like where the state of the world is at, sometimes you kind of just want to be like, I'm a magical creature. I don't have any part of this. Just for a few minutes, and then you kind of got to go back into society.
I think that's very that's very interesting. I think the same for me. For me, Lolita or I think Lolita more than normal J fashion for me. I feel like very confident in it. I'm not a very confident person. So when I wear it, I feel like wow, I'm like my final form, I guess. And I'm like, wow, I didn't know I could, be elevated to this sense and feel so free, I guess, in myself as well, like despite the public's opinion and whatnot. So yeah. So I guess to add to that, subcultures, the thing about subcultures is that there's a really strong sense of community. So I think that's why it attracts a lot of people who might feel left out in, like, say, norm culture, I'd say. So there's this shared sense of purpose and goals and fashion and values, and it gives a really meaningful sense of identity to people, to be in these strong groups, because there's this really strong like in-group atmosphere. So you feel really connected to people in it, even though you might get a bigger reaction out of people who aren't in it. Yeah, we're getting some interesting comments.
Yeah.
Oh. Yeah. I'm glad that so many people feel like have different perspectives about this too.
Yeah, I see a lot of comments about reclaiming femininity for yourself instead of like to serve men or to serve society. And Lolita has always been historically rooted in that. So that was always the point of Lolita fashion. For myself too, a couple years ago, for Techo, myself and Emma from Lolita Collective were interviewed for a local paper where we both talked about how Lolita allowed us to become comfortable with our femininity and express our femininity. I myself really hated feminine things before discovering Lolita. I hated everything. I have like a lot of masculine interests. Like I'm an engineer. I like video games, like board games. And I had kind of had this sense that in order to like the masculine things, I had to reject feminine things. And Lolita helped me come to that understanding of no, femininity can be for me, femininity can be attractive to me, and it can be something that I can enjoy along with enjoying other things.
Oh, I think that's a really good point. Same here. I grew up like a tomboy, I guess. Like, female things are bad because they're too indulgent. So you must engage in, like things that are like more outdoorsy because they're more practical and they show like practical results. And dressing in nice clothes doesn't show that. So I feel like we're being able to reclaim that a bit and say, so what? We can wear whatever we want and still feel good about ourselves, because there are, like, mental health is something you can't see, so it's hard for other people to understand, like, if you feel good in something or not. Like, people only want to see results, like practical tangible things like marks or money or etc. So I think that's kind of interesting. Any questions? I'm not really good at this stream thing. Please help me. Okay.
If you want, I can play moderator if that helps.
Oh, yes.
Right. Yeah, I see a lot of other people mentioning.
Thank you.
It's no problem. And I see somebody mentioning a lot of people in the Lolita community have anxiety issues. I feel the same. I also have anxiety issues, and I started wearing Lolita in college kind of day to day, partially as a way to make myself feel better about it. It's funny. It's hard to, maybe Jenny, you can give us some psychology behind this, but it's interesting that even though Lolita draws outward attention to us, it still, as someone with anxiety, made me feel more comfortable and a little less anxious. And I don't know why. I do know a lot of other people have had that same experience, though.
Actually, I can explain this. So I was afraid I would forget, but the reason why, well, one of the reasons why it can't be, universally applied, but because someone else's attention is something you can't control, whereas, putting on clothes, wearing what you want to wear and how you feel about them, you feel this sense of control. So you're being able to reclaim some power over your anxiety, I would say. That's what I see from it. Like although when I wear Lolita, I'm always afraid like it will attract outward attention. But you feel this sense of like inner, what is it? There's a word for it. So Rogers, this like really famous psychologist guy, he talks about like a internal point of self-evaluation. Like a lot of people's sense of self might come from, outward attention or what other people say. So our sense of self or like our value might depend on what other people say. So when you wear Lolita and you wear it for yourself, you develop more of that control over, oh, I have power over how I feel, I have power over my own values. So I think that is why maybe wearing Lolita made you feel better.
That makes sense to me.
Oh, okay, awesome.
It reminds me of something that had happened to me. There was one time I was on the train going to the city, and in New York you meet a lot of interesting people. So this like really religious guy comes up to me and he's like, "Oh, are you dressed like that for any particular religion?" There's a lot of like religious Jews here that wear the wigs and long dresses. And I said no. So he asked why I was dressed like that, and by the end of the conversation, he's like, "You are somebody who is wherever it is that you want to be."
Oh,
And that's kind of what it feels like. It's like you can't control the outside world, but when you put your clothes on, you are whoever it is that you want to be.
Mm,
yes.
that's a really, really cute experience.
Yeah.
So
Yeah, it was
wholesome.
certainly one of the nicer experiences I've had talking to people about it.
Mm. Oh, someone else said it's wholesome too. Very nice.
Very. Oh. So let's see. I wanted to talk a little bit specifically about menhera in relation to mental health and chronic health because it is born from, like, it is the style that was born out of the mental health and chronic health activism community in Japan. So you cannot get more entrenched in in your health than you can with menhera. And I'm going to show you real quick some examples of menhera in case you don't know what I'm talking about. I didn't prepare images because I'm not good at this.
That's
but
okay.
Real quick, this is one of my friends who does a lot of yumekawa and menhera coordinates that are very casual. So like here's like a sleepy, comfy, sleepy look she did. And so this is like very standard menhera, very comfy, simple hairstyling like this. So when I talk about menhera fashion, this is what I'm talking about. And menhera refers first to the activism community. So this is menhera.jp, and this is the meeting grounds for the menhera community in Japan.
Oh.
We will Google Translate so you can sort of see what these articles about. And these are all different people in Japan talking about their menhera story, like different experiences with their mental and chronic health. And also there'll be kind of calls to action on this site as well. Like a couple years ago, they did a big campaign to get fake health sites that were listing LGBT wrongly as an illness. They made a campaign to get those taken down. So this is what menhera is for that background.
Wow. That's really cool. I didn't know that they did things like that. Like I knew it was a fashion and a culture, but I didn't know that they had so much activism, like real activism built into it. That's
Oh
so
yeah,
cool.
the activism is like, so the menhera fashion is just a small part of the whole menhera. Like menhera
Mm.
is the activism and the community and the people in it, and those people can wear anything. They're just like normal people who have decided that they want to better the mental health of themselves and people around them, and that's just like what they believe. And the fashion spawned out of vent art within that community of people just wanting, people seeing other people drawing vent art and then being like, oh, I want to put that in a shirt, or like, oh, like I DIY'd this art onto a shirt. So it's very neat to see that, and a
Oh,
very
wow.
great example of fashion being born from your health, mental health and your activism. And if you want to learn super way in detail about that, I do have a panel on menhera at 1:45, but I will spare you my eternal talking, because I can just go on about it forever.
Yeah, we should have a plug for your panel, which I don't know how to do, but I'm sure someone will do it.
Oh,
Yeah,
it's my
go.
job to do it though, so I'm
Oh,
like, oh,
okay.
I'll click everything. I'll do it at the end.
Okay, sure. So, we're gonna move on and talk a bit about how we feel in JFashion. Well, we talked about it a bit, but yeah, why we feel confident and why we feel empowered. So, why do we feel positive in JFashion? And what are some of the negative aspects that might come out of it too? So, Lulu, would you like to talk about this?
Okay. Uh, a while ago, a friend of mine had put something kind of like poignantly, but in a silly way to me. Um, a lot of my own personal stuff has to do with like body image problems, and he was like, "Lulu, we're all just piloting meat Gundams here, okay?" And so the fact that we like putting it like that kind of just makes it like, well, it's utilitarian, right? So even if I don't like the way something looks, it serves a purpose, and I guess we all kind of feel weird in our bodies. And Lolita for me was definitely a way to like better present myself. I feel like Gundams. I feel like a lot of people have a different image of themselves in their head than what they actually look like, which could be positive or negative. For me, my inner image was a lot more attractive than I actually find myself to be. And Lolita was kind of a way to like present myself in more of a, I'm less a human and I'm more like a mythical creature that goes beyond like all human standards of beauty, and I'm just in a class of my own. So for me, that's kind of the positive side of it. And the negative side of it was I mentioned in our chats before, uh, I have, I'm not a skinny person, so fitting into stuff was always kind of a bit complicated. Even things like socks, because I have really big calves. So this thing that's supposed to fit everybody and it doesn't fit you, it does feel rather alienating. And that did cause some problems for me at the time, because I have a history of like eating disorders and disordered eating, which are not the same thing. So that's my thing with that.
Hmm. Thank you for sharing that. Those are very personal things, so I'm really grateful you shared those. And I think by sharing that, you're going to be able to connect with other people who might feel the same way. So I think it's really great that you share your story about that. Um, what was I going to say? Um, Hup, hup. Um, uh, Puvi, would you like to say something while I try to remember what I was supposed to say?
Yes. Well, so yeah, to kind of echo what Lulu was saying, Lolita gave me a way to connect with my gender in a way that was very positive. It gave me a way to relate with other women in a way that was also extremely positive. I had previously struggled a lot with connecting and making female friends, which is, it's funny to think about that now because I have so many fantastic female friends now. And it gave me a way to it gave me confidence. It made me feel like I was I don't know, dressing in a way that made me feel good about myself and made me feel like, yeah, like I had control over something. It was nice. Some of the negatives, things have gotten like, there's always like that minority on the online communities who can be nasty. Thankfully, that is a minority, and my experiences in person have always been very good. Um, especially more recently, I think things have gotten a little bit better, but I haven't had as much. I've been very lucky that I naturally fit into most, not all of the Japanese styles, and it does make me sad because I to hear other people having really struggled with that, because it's such a it's like as a designer, I have like my clothing size and I'm somewhat familiar, and it's people who are not in any odd size that are still having to struggle to fit into the Japanese brands, and I'm like, but you're normal size. It's so frustrating that Lolita can encourage those problems when it is almost like an artificially created problem. So it's something to be careful about. I haven't had too much negative with the clothing itself. Also, partially since I moved to Menhera, Menhera is very easy. That's not true. Recently, I developed some chronic pain issues that make it very difficult to wear things. And this isn't Lolita specific, but like for a while, I had 2 work pants I could wear, and one of them got a hole in it. And I couldn't find either of them one morning, and I just like had a whole mental breakdown because I couldn't find a pair of pants to wear, and it was very sad. But things like menhera, I could still wear all of my menhera because it was designed around fitting and designed around being wearable by people with chronic pain issues. So that was a nice little like a sad but also positive from that.
Some good came out of that. That's really awesome. Oh yeah, what I wanted to add was yeah, so that sense of empowerment, yeah, it can come from like yeah, within, but also from a good community. So like Puvi, I also didn't have many like female friends growing up. Like I just couldn't really connect to them because they had a different sense of beauty, I guess, and a different sense of like values than I did. So when I found Lolita, I was like, wow, there's actually something out there for me. Not just Lolita specifically, so maybe to like the people watching, it could be other styles of fashion like Mori K, or I think lately there's like cottage core, but that's probably not specifically J fashion. But it reminds me of Mori K. There's Lam K as well. So there's a lot of yeah, it's always helpful to look at the positives. Thank you for that comment. So yeah, the more you do something that makes you feel good, the more you want to do it, I guess. So that's the psychology behind why you want to do things you like, but also doing things we don't like. There's also a reason for that. So why we do things we don't like or things that make us feel worse, it's because they are more salient memories. They create more like a spark in your brain. So you remember, oh, that made me feel bad. And so you get that stronger sense of emotion if you do the bad thing again. Whereas if you do a good thing, you kind of ignore it because you'll learn to focus on the bad things so you know to stay away from them. And so it's really important to be grateful for all the good things that happen to you too. Not just in J fashion, but in general. So in terms of like negative aspects of wearing J fashion, like Lulu said, it can be really like triggering, and it can be like really aggravating to like body image perceptions. So it's important to remember, like, J fashion originated from Japan, and because of this, their standards of beauty is really like limited, especially to not just Japanese people, but within that, they have a very specific mindset of, oh, I want people in this J fashion to look like this. So it's really difficult for people in the West because you have to try and align yourself with this Eastern perception of what you're supposed to look like, or this is the ideal Lolita. And so I think it's really great nowadays that we have a lot of like Western designers, a lot of indie brands, people who celebrate all different body types, different manufacturing, like eco-friendly, like all these things. They're all really, really wholesome. So yeah, that's my little spiel about it. What do you guys think?
Oh yeah. I did notice one comment about being kind of afraid to wear a Lolita because people were spreading rumors about you. I'm sorry. That's terrible. I don't know why there are always some mean people who will make up shit to be assholes. If they're like people in your community, I would recommend bringing that up to your moderators. That is not tolerated in most Lolita communities. They're people you're friends with. I would say they're not really your friends. They're being get some good friends, good people. There are a lot of good people in the JFashion community who won't treat you that way. You do not deserve to be treated that way, and regardless of them treating you like that, you should still be proud to wear what you like and what you love, and be confident in your own self-perception and know what they're saying about you isn't true. And that goes for everyone who you might like. A few years ago, there was a whole it was okay to have the opinion that pastels didn't go with dark skin. Like that was a thing. Just
I didn't know that.
People are nonsense, and
Ignorance.
you gotta. Those people around you say things like that. You should tell them this is not good behavior. You need to quit that, or I'm not going to talk to you.
When people get like that, it's usually because they're unhappy with who they are and where they're at. So instead of being like, I like this thing, I want to share it with other people, we can all enjoy it together, they're like, I don't feel 100% in this, let me tear somebody else down so that I can feel better about myself. So while it's not a matter of like feel sorry for them because they're also not in a good space, it's more an explanation as opposed to an excuse. So they're also unhappy. Why would you like let somebody ruin their happiness because they're unhappy?
That's a very good point, Lulu. And with what Puvi said, if you find that people are being like malicious to you online, do remember that you can hide behind a keyboard online, but not in person. So when you meet people in real life, they might be really nice to you, and that's a good thing. So take that away with you as a good thing that comes from wearing JFashion. And they might go online later and say nasty things, but at least you'll always know that you'll have a good perception of them in real life. So I think it's really good to meet people in person as well. I've had really good experiences from meeting people online though. And I'd say that's because everyone else is the same. Like no one has this prior judgment of who you might be unless you're like really famous, I guess. Like everyone is like, just a little person on the internet. And it's really nice to make that connection. And I think it also comes with that you can think about what you want to say before you say it online because you can type out the message. And also you don't have that obligation to further the relationship if you don't want to, like especially if they live in another part of the world. It's very easy to remove yourself if things get worse or things get too much. So I think that's why there's good and bad that comes out of online interactions. And same with in person, it can become really like anxiety provoking if you're like new to it, or if there's like someone you don't like, or someone there's some like tension. But once you like go to enough of these meets like by the community, I think it's really great if you can find like even just one or two people who you really identify with and who you really enjoy the company of, and you can always spend time with them instead of everyone else, because you can have more deep and meaningful conversations and still have fun.
Yeah, amen to that. I definitely the Lolita community, as like building my own personal community, has been invaluable. Even so now I'm a little bit more well known, but even when I was like a complete nobody, dressed poorly, I still dress poorly sometimes, it's fine.
I'm sure
whenever I traveled anywhere, I would find the local Lolita community and I'd say, hi, I'm a Lolita, I'm traveling and I'm going to be in town for a couple days. Would anybody like to hang out with me and go around, be Lolitas? And every single time some people, sometimes a couple of times I had them make whole meets just because I was showing up. They didn't know anything about me, didn't know who I was at all. And I was not known as anybody during these times. And those communities would still be like, yeah, we'll come do something, or we're having a meet at this day. Why don't you come show up and hang out with us? And that's been true for everywhere I've gone to. And I love that sense of community. And I think a lot of times with the discourse online, people miss that aspect, that there are very welcoming people in the community who are very happy to meet with you and to interact with you and give you that opportunity and that chance to like just be friendly with somebody who enjoys something else you like.
Someone said they thought you said cold meats when you said whole meats.
Now you're making me hungry. I want some.
Yeah, I feel like you should probably give a shout out to all those communities that have been so welcoming to you, because you know, traveling as a traveling leader, I think that's a really good point to make. And also there's not that responsibility, or what's that word? Like obligation that you need to make if you need to see them again. So if you say something silly and you get really embarrassed, you don't have to see them again. And if you want, you can always come back and meet like, the one or two people who you had a great conversation with. So I think those are really like valuable experiences. And I think you both go to conventions, right? Like travel.
Yeah. Yeah.
So you probably meet like a whole bunch of people from there as well.
I've met like a few cool people at OhioCon specifically. I don't normally travel for events because it's expensive. But at Anime NYC, I've certainly met like a lot of really neat people that I wouldn't have met otherwise. So
I think that's great too, because some people aren't always in like the Facebook group or whatever, and they might show up at a convention instead. Yeah. So we're going to talk a bit about the uses of JFashion. So how JFashion can be a catalyst for creativity, inspiration, things like that. So like Puvi was talking about, it really encourages this sense of community and this sense of support, because we're all like, I guess we're all kind of fish out of water. So we all have that bond over, just one aspect of the fashion. But if you talk to someone a bit more, you might find out, oh, they feel the same way as I do. So it has this safe space, especially if you're in a really good environment. So you can, feel like you can let your guard down, you can be yourself, things like that. If Puvi wants to talk about this, you can.
JFashion also has you have an opportunity for activism, and that is directly in things like menhera. But there also is more activism, like we're doing a charity raffle, I believe, for this event that happened. We did a virtual event that was we had a charity fundraiser that we ran. We raised $1,200 for the Okra Project, which is great. There's lots of opportunities of the group to come together and kind of show support for positive movements. There's been a lot of like just Lolitas getting together to organize little pieces of activism. A lot of people using they built a platform with their Lolita, and they've used that platform to even reach out to non-Lolitas and say, hey, these are the things I support. These are the things I don't support. You should support these things. It's very cool to be able to use that activism aspect, both directly as in doing calls for action, and also indirectly as in, just wearing Lolita is presenting femininity for the female gaze and for yourself. And that is kind of, what's the word? I forgot the word. But it's like almost controversial just in itself, because you're doing something different and it makes people think just by being in your other fashion.
That's a good point.
Yeah, like your art does a lot of that as well.
Yes.
I'll let you talk more about that though.
I mean, obviously my work is like somewhat inspired by Lolita. It's not always direct, but the reason I went in that direction, because it wasn't always like that, was at the suggestion of one of my old therapists. She was like, well, just draw what it is that you're feeling, right? Which seems like such an obvious thing to do, but for some reason I was like, no, I have to make this other stuff. People will like it better. Which is another thing. Make work that you like. Don't make work for other people. But I really had to look into myself and like what it was that I had wanted to say as a creative. Not that all creatives have to do this, but for me, it's very important to put in whatever it is that my view of the world is. Like, what is my unique voice as somebody who makes things? What makes me different from other people? And it's not that Lolita makes me different from other people. Obviously, there's a large community involved in it. But I had mentioned to you guys that it felt like a really easy way to physically display the concept of feeling othered, because it's very different from what the average person would find to be acceptable. You know, sometimes you'll find people out in the world who like it, but for them it's a novelty. It's not it's not real. It's almost like wearing a costume and they just happen to like it. And so for me, it felt like I feel very alienated from other people. How do I explain this without words? And without, you know, one person is drawn differently than all the other people in the room, which is like a very obvious way of doing that. And I felt like the clothes were a way of explaining that I feel like I'm in a different place. If that makes sense.
That makes sense. And I wanted to throw up some images actually, because you talked about othering, but I don't know how to. Oh, share screen. Okay, sorry, I'm not good at this.
It's okay.
Okay, I think this is the thing I wanted to share. Is it sharing? Oh, okay, thank you. So I wanted to share. This is Kaho Honey on Instagram. So I like how she uses, like, there's a lot of Lolita influence stuff for sure, but I don't know if it's Lolita specifically, but I really like her art because it's a bit different and they all feel, you know, like they're not enjoying themselves. And I like this one because there's like this excess, because Lolita is very, you know, excessive, like over the top compared to normal fashion. So I really like the way she draws and the emotion evoked from her images. And you can follow her on Instagram. There's her little username there. And I also have some, I think, of, oh yeah, this one. This is how I feel, like being others. So, you know, you don't always want to welcome someone else's attention, but, you know, you can be whoever you want to be. And don't take my, what do you call it? The meaning I get from these. I'd like you guys to, you know, get your own meaning from these as well. Like, how do these pictures make you feel? Not necessarily it might inspire, you know, happiness or whatever, but I feel like it's good to get a reaction from these personally. And I wanted to throw up Lulu's pictures as well. So I really like this one because, you know, as a person with feelings who is navigating the real world, it's nice if you're able to reflect how you feel inside on the outside as well. And this is what this picture says to me. I don't know what it says to Lulu though. What do you think, Lulu?
I think because I did that in like 2017 for Inktober, I think. And the idea of it for me was inside everybody, there's somebody who really wants to be happy, but it's not always there for you. So it's like the ideal of what it is that you would like to be that you can't always present to the world outside.
Oh, great. I think I nailed it then.
Yes.
Oh, okay. And I had, I think, a couple more pictures. This one, I felt like, I don't remember how this made me feel, but it, like looking at it, I was like, this I can relate to. How would you explain this one, Lulu?
So that was the opening image for the book that I had made of like illustrations of my different struggles. And that one, I think, because it wasn't anything specific, it was just like, don't mind me, I'm always falling apart or something.
Yes.
Because I always feel like a complete discombobulated mess, no matter what it is I'm doing, no matter how hard I've tried, no matter how prepared I am. I always feel like somebody who's falling apart and doesn't know what they're doing. So it's just like.
I feel like that. Yeah, yes. You can fall apart, but at least you'll be pretty when you fall apart. And when you come back together, it'll still be a cord. Um, and I think I had one more from Lulu. So I feel like, yeah, it's sometimes, your biggest enemy is yourself and you can weigh yourself down. So I feel like it's great to learn to introspect and learn a bit more about that other part of yourself. Like, not saying that people have two halves or anything, but it's good to know what we are thinking, why we are thinking it. So sometimes it's good to look in the mirror and find out, what's going on inside. Because your enemy can also be your best friend. Yeah, I mean, yourself can be your worst enemy.
Yeah.
And I thought, yeah, Lolita is very used for like you said, othering. So this is what it also said to me. I think this is what's it called? Suehiro Maro's Tsubaki Shoujo, and I think it's like an orphan girl in a circus, and it's sort of Lolita inspired. Like, it's very out there and it's very cute. So that's why I included that. I don't really have much to say about it because I didn't read it yet. Thank you for sharing my screen. How do I oh, thank you. Oh, thank you, Op6ly, for linking the art book.
Yeah,
Yes,
I
really like
I
it.
love art like that. I especially love Lulu's art because I have a very hard time expressing how I'm feeling and how my emotions are. A very difficult time actually putting it to words. But like with art like Lulu's, I can look at it like that falling apart one. Like I can look at it and be like, that's how I feel. There we go. And just being able to have something that describes that for me makes me kind of feel more able to deal with my feelings.
Part of my intention with it after the initial, like, I guess I'll just draw what I'm feeling phase of it, because when I posted it online, people were like, oh, I have that. This is a good representation. I understand this. And I wanted to bring to light certain issues that I have that I think are common, but people don't necessarily know what it is. Trichotillomania seemed to be the biggest thing for that, which is like when you pull out your hair. Which is an issue that I have. And people, one, didn't know it even had a name. Two, felt really uncomfortable even talking about it with mental health care professionals because they felt that it was disgusting. And three, didn't realize it was a common problem. And so it felt really like liberating, one, that I get to see that other people have that issue alongside myself, but that other people also get to realize they aren't by themselves either.
I think that's the great thing about sharing your art and sharing things you guys create. So I'm really glad. I wanted to share one more thing. Sorry, I'm not a boomer, I promise. That's my boyfriend being a troll. I wanted to share this one. So I'm sure you guys know this. Two Tots and a Princess, the sad potato. I really identify with this. So it's so sad, but it's so cute, right?
Oh, my favorite.
I love him.
Yeah, exactly. I see him and I'm like, I love him too.
Don't
yeah.
cry, potato.
So I'll read a little bit about it. So it's the saddest potato you have ever met. We've all been there, curled up on your couch, feeling like a sack of potatoes. Now you can have a little sad potato buddy to accompany you and maybe cheer you up accidentally. So that's why I love it. And I wanted to share him because I think he's the epitome of sad but kawaii.
He's very good. He's a good boy.
Yeah. Thank you guys for thank you JFashion on Demand for linking that. Thank you for doing the stop screen sharing.
You're welcome.
The
Okay.
other thing I wanted to talk about was, so we talked a bit about othering, and I wanted to talk a bit about emotion as well. Like, in the use of JFashion, you can use it to express yourself. So there are like emotional associations with kawaii culture. It's not what you use, but how you use it. So it can be a tangible item, and it's like what we said before. There's a sense of control, a sense of purpose that you can assign to an object, or like say this beret, and it can either invoke meaning, like feelings of when you first got the item. Like perhaps, when I first saw this, I fell in love with it. So every time you wear it again, you might feel, I remember when I first fell in love with this, and that's why I developed positive feelings around it. Or it can be like associated with other memories, like, oh, when I went to a tea party, I wore this, or when I went to so and so, I saw this person and I remember great moments with them, or when I wore this, I felt that sense of, oh, this is how I'm supposed to be, and therefore I want to always wear it. So that's why there is this emotional association with elements of kawaii culture. And this is research from Megan Catherine Rose, who is a Australian sociologist. I will link her page right here on the screen, Catherine Rose. But I got to go to one of her talks actually a while ago, maybe like 2 years ago. But it was really interesting because I never thought of clothes or Lolita in that sense. So this is her. She's right here, and you can read some of her articles here or find out more about her on other pages. But yeah, the one I think is really good to read is this one, My Heart Fluttered, Affect and Emotion in Kawaii Fashion Communities. So it was a quick read. It's like 3 pages. And it explains a bit more than just JFashion, but also like, I think, pink hime, and also like spank and 6% doki doki, things like that. And she does it through qualitative research, so through like interviews and things like that, which I think are very underrated in the science field. It's not all about numbers. So yeah, there's that. And I wanted to also talk a bit about that sense of fantasy and reality. So for some, Lolita can be an escape from reality, but for others, Lolita is an inherent part of themselves, like an inherent part of their identity. So for them, it might be, oh, this is me, but better, or me in a different world. But for other people, it can be, I want to forget reality just for a second and just turn that off button or pause button on and do something else that's different. So let me see the screen behind me. So I wanted to throw up some pictures actually about this difference between reality and fantasy. Sorry for all my ahing. Okay. So these are some pictures I gathered. So this is from Deerstalker Pictures, and they have like a girl on the bed who is depicted as a doll. So with fantasy and reality, there's this very fine relationship. So it's about longing for the fantasy, but also understanding that there is a reality, and you can't reach this fantasy, you can't reach the impossible, but it doesn't stop us from trying. And definitely it helps us remind that it in a, what do you call it, hypocritical or almost ironic sense, it helps remind us of being real, of being here, and of being ourselves. So it can create tension because there's this me versus this not me, and the way we play with our fashion helps us make it easier to find our place on earth or our place in the world, if that makes sense. How do you guys find this? And here are some more pictures. I commissioned one of my friends to draw another friend, and I would say this is them in their final form. So I think that's a Dark Souls sword, and they love junk food. Yeah, so and they love raccoons, and I think that dog is from Dark Souls. Yeah, and I had 1 more or 2 more pictures. So this is another picture from my friend who's an artist, Audie Canary. She's not a Lolita artist, but she's just an artistic friend, and I commissioned her to do this as well. I had a meet a while ago that was the theme of duality. So I thought it would suit this topic because, yeah, fantasy and reality, they're different, but in the same sense, they can, intersect as well. And I think that's what wearing JFashion helps to do. It helps join together these 2 worlds. And this last picture is by yumiyumyum.illustration. And this is based on a story by the writer from Deerstalker Pictures, and it's about a doll and someone who's trying to, I think, fix the doll or make them more real. I can't quite remember, but one day he'll put out the story. I felt it was very emotional to me. How do you guys find this topic, this aspect of fantasy versus reality?
Well, I do think there's a little bit of a reminder to me that all of our childhoods, like Disney sold us this princess fantasy, and their idea was to try basically to get us hooked on that so that we have to keep giving our money to Disney to maintain that princess fantasy and hopes. But Lolita gives us a way to do that in a way that's both healthy, safe, and doesn't feed the corporate mouse. It's nice to be able to capture that kind of dream as adults in a setting that's safe and friendly and in a way that we can express ourselves. So,
how about for you, Lulu?
I've definitely always had an issue with like not wanting to be in reality. I mean, the world is like a terrible place sometimes, and it's very tempting to just want to turn your brain off sometimes. But we still have to live in it. So for me, Lolita was like, I'm just gonna bring the magic wherever it is that I go. But also, it represents like a very different like person than who I am like on a daily basis. I'm like a very brash person. You know, in New York, we'll yell at anybody. And it's like I can be that princess that I am in my head who's like kind and not screaming at people on the street. So man, like let me tell you, the catcallers here are relentless. Okay, sometimes you have to yell.
Wow. Wow. I didn't know that. That's why New York people yelled. Oh, very cool. Anything you guys wanted to ask us at this stage whilst I navigate to the next section?
Yeah, sometimes
that's very true, Jess.
Yes. Sometimes as Lolitas, we have to yell at people anyway to make them go away. Yes. Yes.
Oh yes, I wanted to throw up a few pictures about like living our best self or a fantasy world, because I thought that these were very whimsical, and I think Lolita or some other JFashion aspects, they're also very whimsical. These are from, I think, Atelier Nocturne, or crap, I can't remember the name, but they're friends with Deerstalker Pictures, and I found them on the internet on her blog, and I thought that there's this sense of whimsy, sense of fantasy, that I thought was really lovely, and it evoked very like positive emotions for me. And like this is goals, hashtag goals. I don't know how you guys feel about it. What about you, Lulu and Vivi? What do you think about this?
I think it's funny because as the goth, I tend to be more in the realm of like, yes, that, except it's all of us with like a bunch of wine in the graveyards. Me and my friends, actually, we all got Violet Fane's the funeral dress. So we've all been talking about all of us wearing it and getting some wine and sitting in the graveyard being silly goths.
That'd be so cool.
Yes.
All right. So sorry, I'm looking at the screen behind my screen. So yes, so I think Lulu wanted to talk a bit about how the use of JFashion can set a tone, like in her art. So why don't you share that with us? I know you talked about it a little bit, but why don't you talk a little bit more?
Well, I mean, it's certainly a very easy way to make something more fantastical. All of these types of clothes and other JFashion styles too. It's not just Lolita, but it's not what the average person would consider like normal. So when you put it in work, it kind of automatically creates this kind of like old world energy, like old European world energy. where it's somewhat alien to like our modern day sensibilities. So somebody like Loputin, I think that's how you pronounce it. Her girls aren't even always in clothes, but sometimes, she's usually in like something that's Lolita adjacent. And it creates a specific dynamic. Obviously it depends on what it is that you choose to do with it. It could be a lot of things, you can have an old world vampire, you can have something that's like more innocent. But the artist I wanted to discuss a little bit, and she doesn't do Lolita, but it's something that I think Lolitas would like. Let's see if I can.
I've 6ly linked it for us.
Well, that, but I did want to
show pictures.
Yeah, I don't know if this is gonna work.
Well, while you're trying, oh, there it goes. So while you're trying to pull that up, I really like the use of JFashion as a way to impart a mood to a piece without it. See, oh, it's still loading for you. I like how JFashion in an art can impart a mood to a piece without it drawing so much attention that's what you're doing. Like, it's really subtle. I see that with your work a lot. You do a good use of using Lolita. Like, it creates the dreamy.
Whoa.
Sorry, the folders don't want to open, so I'm just gonna go to Google.
Just let me know when you've got it set up. I like how it creates a dreamy and otherworld feel, but in like a subtle and positive way instead of in like an abrupt or abnormal way. It's very. It's why they use that kind of silhouette in Alice in Wonderland, and why they use that silhouette like the Secret Garden. Is it helps them tie in all of the themes, and using JFashion in your art does that as well.
I don't know if it's showing on screen what I have in Google.
Is it showing
yes, correctly?
Girl. Yes, it is.
So, Moto Hagio's work is not Lolita or even JFashion specific, but a lot of her. Oh my god! A lot of why? I can't. A lot of her work does have this kind of like more of a vintage aesthetic. She's from that time period in like shoujo art that a lot of the early Lolitas were inspired by. So a lot of her stuff is rather hyper feminine. And they do touch on aspects of mental health. Iguana Girl being like the prime example of it, because that's about like cycles of abuse. And it's like a really amazing story, and the aesthetic of it would be in line with like things that Lolitas would like, especially when it comes to like that old style shoujo look. Everybody has like these huge eyes with which to show emotion. I had to study her work when I was in college because I had issues showing emotion in my work. So my teacher was like, read this, study it like it's your Bible.
Wow.
You'll learn something. And because my teacher was very much like a shoujo fanatic. So he was like, this is it for you. And at first I resisted. And the more I looked into it and the more that I read, I really understood what he was getting at. It's very like subtly emotion, but there's big emotions too, and it's got that like kind of aesthetic that Lolitas tend to go for. So.
Yeah, it's so really funny to me to hear that was something you struggled with, because you do such a good job of showing emotion in your artwork now.
Yes, exactly. I was just thinking that too.
At the time, it was not good. My thesis was a comic about the little match girl, so emotion is really important because it's a real sad story.
Yeah.
So, yeah, and to build on that, I think it's JFashion in creativity, in art, and in design. It helps us to explore like the possibilities of, well, when we wear something, what were we like in a different world? What are we like if we lived in the Rococo era, or if we lived in the future, what would we be like? So I think it gives us a chance to not just have power over our identity and our story now, but also what our story could be or would have been. So yeah, and thank you guys for sharing that so far. So I think we are moving on to the real life tactics on how to keep coping mechanisms healthy. Oh, but first, I think there was a question, but I don't know how to show questions on the screen. It was
what's
what
the project you guys are working on?
Yes, that one.
Right.
Oh, thank you. So, what about you, Puvi? Why don't you start first?
Well, I'm still fighting with getting my production back on schedule. That's been a time. I actually haven't really done too much art this year. It's been a really difficult year for doing art for most artists. It's hard. It's really hard when you're in a bad mental space to do art. People are always like, "Oh, your struggles make your art good." No, your struggles make you unable to do art. So,
It's a fine balance.
but I'm doing a virtual 5-year anniversary celebration later this year, so I have to do that. I have to get everything together for that.
That's so cool.
We'll eventually be there. My next Lolita print that's been like 2 years in the making is finally getting to the last stages, and it's looking good. So those are the things I'm kind of in the immediate future working on.
I think a lot of people will be looking forward to that.
I hope so. I don't know.
I was really excited by the thing you did for this event, the Sailor Moon necklaces, I think it was. Yeah, they were really cute.
Oh, thank you. I'm glad you like those. Those were I was cleaning and I found all the cabochons. I was like, oh no, I should do something with this instead of hoarding it in a pile.
Make a circlet of just of them. And how about you, Lulu? Are there any projects you're working on right now? I feel like you are working on a lot.
Well, I'm always designing new pins, even if by accident. It's usually by accident. I've had some like fashion items that I got samples for, but I need to source a new factory because I didn't like the sample.
Oh.
Well, also like there was an issue because it was a group order with a bunch of other people, and a different factory was like claiming to use our items as their like they made them, so it was like a whole big thing.
Rude.
Didn't like that. So yeah.
Oh, message me later. I'll give you my menu for that. It might be better.
Well, they're berets, so it's like embroidery.
Oh, we were in the same group order.
Wasn't that a time?
Yeah,
I still have to figure that one out.
You guys are working on berets? That's so exciting.
Well, we were working on berets.
Oh, okay. I'm still excited.
Eventually.
I have one somewhere. I think it might be. I got one of the samples made, and then all of that happened.
It was not good.
It was not good.
Oh my gosh, I'm so excited. I love berets. I love pancake hats.
It just had like eyes all over the brim.
Oh, that's still cool.
I really like eyeballs because I'm also like autistic. I don't like looking people in the eye. It's a very hard thing for me. So I just cover myself in eyeballs. Now I'm always looking at you in the eye.
Oh, okay. Or we can always look at those eyes instead.
Oh, I love eyes as like a motif for anxiety and dealing with things. It's like, it's like a joke. Whenever I'm trying to design something, I have to like really try really hard not to just put eyeballs on it.
But eyeballs are the best motif.
They are.
Oh, eyeballs scare me, but I also like them. It's like that, I like that it has a reaction.
Well, I think part of it is that like emotion comes from the eyes and the eyebrows, and so it's almost like being confronted with like emotions you weren't prepared to deal with.
Exactly. Wow, that's great. For me, any projects I'm working on or things I'm looking forward to, I'm looking forward to everything you guys are doing. Now that I hear berets, my ears are perked up like extra. I'm like, berets? And I was really looking forward to Lulu's pins as well. And I'm also really looking forward to Puvi's Lolita print. I'm like, oh, cool. Didn't know you guys are working on so many things. I like seeing like sneak peeks of what people are working on. So this is always exciting. What am I working on? Nothing, because I'm creative in that I am creative in here, but I don't have an outlet because I am not good at creating stuff with my hands. But I have a lot of ideas. So I think what I'm looking forward to is maybe doing a photo shoot. I didn't enjoy photo shoots before, but I feel like when I see them done, I'm like, wow, that's like me in my final form. That's how I want to be. And I did a great photo shoot with someone called Perez. Maybe I'll throw them up on the screen. Um, so yeah, I was always like anti-photo shoot because I was just not good at posing. But this is a photographer I worked with. His name is Perez. You can find him on Instagram, and he does a lot of like very like I don't know. There's a lot of emotion and there's a lot of great scenery in them too. And I hope it's scrolling as I scroll because that'd be cool. He does a lot of cosplay photo shoots, but he also does a lot of like non-cosplay photo shoots too. And I think they're really beautiful. Like there's this sense of fantasy, but it's also very soft as well. And I think it's beautiful. And I can't believe these are done in Australia. Like I'm always struggling with the idea that Australia can be beautiful.
Oh, but Australia has so many cool things.
Really?
Yeah. Like
Oh,
you have
wow.
really cool geography, very interesting and diverse geography, very interesting and diverse creatures. Like
Oh,
there's so much
everything can
to
kill
tap
you.
into there. That's from my American perspective.
Ah, that's really great to hear. Thank you for that. Here is me, self-promotion. Yeah, this is from my shoot with him. So it was like my second professional shoot like ever. And you know, in person I was like so nervous. I was like, what if I'm not doing it right? What if he what if he erases all the photos after because they're all terrible? But they came out so nice, and it was really nice to work with someone professional too. And yeah, I felt like really relaxed as well. And I don't know, I didn't expect to be able to portray something like this nice. Like I never think highly of myself, so this brought me a lot of confidence, I'd say. So yeah, thank you for sharing my screen about that. And so I really want to work with him again. That's my project to look forward to. Yeah. Oh, who said Jerry and Kevin? Oh, of Sixley said Jehlei and Jerry and Kevin and Hero. Perez makes my eyes feel good. I feel that on photo shoots, I'm so uncomfortable when people take pictures of me. I perhaps need to be guided. Oh, that's a good comment. Because yes, I'm really, really rigid in photos, and you can really tell. So the way someone told me that they could tell was that my jaw was not relaxed, and so I think photo shoots make you really mindful. So, and being mindful is good because it makes you aware of your surroundings and to be in the now and not to be in your head. So I think photo shoots are good in that sense. I did not ever think that highly of them ever, so I was really surprised. I think starting off with, you know, taking pictures of yourself because you can be really unguarded with yourself are really good. And you can always delete them because they're on your phone. And with a photographer, you know, they could be on their device. You don't really have as much control over what comes out. But if you work with someone who's very collaborative, it'd be really great if you could negotiate something that, you know, you'd like to see as well. And yeah, if there's someone who you want to reach out to, you can always reach out to them. And you know, if they don't want to shoot, that's it. They just don't want to. You can find someone else. But knowing is better than not knowing. And yes, they said the posing panel yesterday was really helpful. And a good photographer will be able to pose you and make you feel natural. That's very true.
Good photographer will help you with that. They'll tell you to tilt a little bit. They'll show you examples of how to pose. Having done a lot of photo shoots, we're kind of towards the end of our time, so we may want to
okay.
finish
Oopsies.
up and then do a few questions.
Okay, so oh whoops, thank you for telling me that. So I'll just quickly share my screen. So the things I wanted to talk about. So like in talking about all this mental health and JFashion, I wanted to share some photos of why it's important to keep our coping mechanisms healthy. And so this one first, this is Lulu's artwork. I thought it was really important because, you know, you can't really pour from an empty cup. So I think this is what it says to me. It might not say that to Lulu, but that's my interpretation. I think it's really important to be healthy with yourself first. And that's why I think self-care is really important, and why it's becoming more significant and more even trendy, I suppose, like more of the norm. And it's okay, and it's not selfish. And so what we can do is we can reflect within. So start with the man in the mirror, or the woman in the mirror, or whoever it is you see in the mirror. Start by looking at yourself. Start by being present in the moment. Look at what brings you joy, and what does joy look like for you. What meanings do clothes say to you? What do they give you? Why does it give you joy? So it's important to ask those kind of questions. It's not always necessary, but if you want to understand a bit more about them, it doesn't hurt to ask questions. And it also doesn't hurt to talk to other people about it too, especially people you trust. I wanted to show this one too. This is Manasama in one of the GLBs. It's kind of small, but I thought it was a really great illustration, because I love Mame Watia, and there's that, EGA side and the EGL side. And he had a really great quote that I couldn't find, but it was something about, that's why he called it Mame Watia, because there are two halves to himself. It's me and myself. So this is how he saw himself, I think. There's always a maiden and a youth who wants to rescue the maiden, something like that. Don't quote me on that. And I also wanted to share this. So I wanted to talk about this a bit too, because it's important to look back to your roots and, tend the roots so that the plant can feel good too. Just like real gardening, if the plant's looking a bit sad, maybe there's something going on in there. Not necessarily issues, but maybe some other parts of you need attention as well. And yeah, so it's good to reflect, and it's good to look at. So what I said was, what makes you tick and what makes you talk? Just like, a clock. It's good to look at what makes you tick, as in what fosters good mental health care, and and also look at what aggravates mental health issues for you. Don't talk to me or myself ever again. Yes. And so it's good to look at, what are some mind traps, lock onto triggers before they start spinning out of control. So it's good to be aware. Very, very good to be aware. And repetition. So the more you do something you like, the more easier it is. It's like built into you psychologically and neurologically. So your neurons fire faster, and the pathways they have are stronger, or something like that. Forgot my science words. But yeah, the more you do something, the more easier it is. It's like riding a bike. So the more you do positive things, or the more you wear JFashion and you feel good in it, the more you want to do it. And that's why there are so many great people out there who wear JFashion and look really great as well. What do you guys want to say? Oh, I forgot to end on a quote. Oops. The quote I had. I feel bad for talking so much.
No, you're the panel leader. You get to do.
Oh my goodness. Okay, so the quote I wanted to share with you guys to end. So I had a PowerPoint actually, but it was too messy, so I just ended up taking a screenshot from my PowerPoint. This is from the lady in Ali project, Erika Takarano, and I think it's from something. Oh, how does it stop doing that? O maiden, advance with a sword and a rose. So this is her quote. This is what I think. Gothic and Lolita clothes are a maiden's armor, which even a knight's armor cannot compare to. A maiden's lace is her steel, her ribbons are chains, her dress hat is her helmet, and she surreptitiously changes the blood that flows from her wounds into true rose petals. Thus, the maiden fights. After all, to live is to fight, and to become beautiful is to become stronger. You are a noble being that no one may touch. You are cute and yet tragic. Yes, the ideal aristocratic maiden in my imagination is very much like you. So yeah.
Oh.
That's it from me. What about you guys?
That's it, she says. Now we have to follow up that gorgeous and impactful quote.
Any? Oh yeah, go ahead.
No, the only thing that I have to say, my field outside of this is outside of like my artwork is skincare, and we have a lot of people coming in for like things that are minor. It's not hurting them. It's like nobody cares. Um, and the only thing I want to say to people is that your flaws make you human. They're not ugly. They're just human. So if anybody is like your nose is too big, your feet are too big, you're ugly, you're a person. You're a human being. Screw them.
Exactly. That's really, really great to say.
I wanted to second the like know your triggers, know when you're getting into an anxiety spiral or a depressive spiral, and learn how to stop those spirals, because you really you really can have more powers over your mood and your thoughts. And it takes practice, and there are good therapy ways to deal with that. But when you're having a thought that is, oh, I shouldn't wear this, I'm going to look ugly, oh, what are they going to think? It's important to kind of address that thought and go, okay, this is not true, and I need to stop following this line of thought before it starts affecting my mood and making me feel bad. So it takes a lot of training and in some cases therapy to deal with more severe versions of that spiral, but there are things that you can do something about.
That's a really good point. And to quickly add to that is I had a really great chat with Tammy on my Instagram IGTV. So I don't have the link to her Instagram, but it's Rev's Mantra, I think. It's in French. I can't say it. But she was saying how if you're anxious and if you're wearing something that's constricting and that makes you not feel good, that will amplify how bad you feel and how you walk and talk as well. So it's great to address, the little issue before it becomes big. So yeah, that's why I think it's good to know yourself a bit better. And yes, bold of you to assume I'm human. I'm sure you're human on some layer.
On some layer.
Yeah, someone called me a robot. My friend always calls me a robot. So I have a human flesh outside, but I'm pretty sure I'm a Gundam inside or something.
Yeah, we're all meat Gundams. Remember that, guys.
we're all octopuses piloting meat bodies, like because the neural system looks like an octopus.
Oh my gosh, it does. Meat Gundam. I like it better than Flesh Prison.
Well, it certainly has more autonomy, I think.
Yes.
Yeah. We probably have time for like one quick question if somebody wants to ask a question real quick, and then we'll have to poof on out.
Yes.
There's a bit of a delay between the chat and the stream. I don't know if you guys know that. So it'll take them a few seconds for them to hear me say that, and then it'll take them a few more seconds to actually type any questions. So.
Oh, I didn't know that.
Yes, it's 10 seconds. I think.
Oh.
From StreamYard to Twitch, I'm not sure. Alexis would know.
So an Evangelion.
Give it a couple more seconds. Well, if we don't see any more questions, then I can start playing the chill beats and chill the next.
I do like the chill beats. They sound like a real con. We've never had a JFashion specific con here, so this is really cool for me because when I do go to conventions, I never go to panels. So it's ironic, isn't it, that I'm here?
Hey. I'm glad it could be a new experience. Yeah, all right. Well, we'll all say bye, and I'm gonna start those nice chill beats.
All right. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
Thank you everyone for listening.